Yeah, we talk a lot about victory beyond competition. Is how do you win in life without a scoreboard? And what is the most important things in your life? And it can't be a scoreboard. It has to be something else that continues on, goes on.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the coach of Sports Reach teams, Kelly Combs. With over 30 years of coaching experience, Coach Combs has coached at the high school, college, and professional levels. In 2009, Coach joined Athletes in Action as a basketball missionary. His 17-year head coaching record is 266 and 120, but he considers the relationships and the growth he has seen in the young men he has coached as far more important. Coach Combs is also the Texas sales representative for the Gun by Shootaway. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great today. How are you?
Oh man, living the dream. Man, I just want to thank you so much for, first giving up your time and talking hoops with me today. This is going to be awesome because you and I have kind of had a friendship and interacted with each other randomly throughout the years, but I'm excited to have this time with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you were open to having me on your show. I always thought it was really cool. It's like, yeah, I'd love to do
that. Well, what's your spring look like?
Man, it's crazy busy right now. I'm getting ready for a tour. I have a tour coming up in May. That's May the 14th through the 29th, and we're going to Jamaica. So I'm crazy busy right now trying to put a team together. This stuff that's happening in college basketball with the transfer stuff is a nightmare.
Really?
Yeah, kids just are not settled on where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing, and coaches don't have a clue what their roster is going to look like.
Wow.
So, it's made it really hard to recruit guys because
I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that as far as that affecting, something like you do, which obviously we'll get into that a little bit, especially with Sports Reach and just how long you've been doing that, taking teams, and you're with Athletes in Action, right, for a long time.
Right. Yeah, I was with them for quite a while, for 11 years before I came here.
I didn't think of the transfer portal affecting organizations like you at all.
Completely. I mean, we've been calling coaches and saying, "Hey, who do you have that would be good to go on this trip?" And he's like, "I don't know who's on my roster."
Wow, how about that?
They have these crazy rules that kids can put their name in the portal without even talking to the coach. Coaches have to look at the portal every day to see who's on their team and who's not.
What a horrible surprise.
Yeah.
Every day to open up that you may be looking for some other guys and see one of your own players' names on it. So yeah, it's tough because I kind of look on Twitter or read some people talk about just all the negatives of the portal, and I agree with pretty much all of them. But then there are the few that are making good changes, good decisions. Right. But it's just the number that's in there right now. I saw one guy say that a majority of the kids in the portal are there because for the first time in their lives they were told the truth by their college coach. That's an interesting message.
That's an interesting quote too. Yeah. But these coaches, they're just like, my good players all are in the portal because they think they can go somewhere bigger. And the guys who don't get to play very much are all in the portal because they think they can go somewhere and play more. And so it's just kind of crazy how it's turned into this. I mean, I wanted to say on Twitter, but I don't want to do it. I wanted to say, hey, whoever created this situation with the portal is either one, laughing their head off because they destroyed college basketball, or they're in hiding because 95% of the coaches in America are wanting to get their hands on that guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, whoever that is, what does he have to say about this mess that he's created? Tell me, what are you doing with the shooting gun right now? Anything still with them?
Yeah, I'm still doing a rep. I'm still a rep for the gun. And so Basically, I go to clinics and shows and just be a demonstrator there at those shows and try to convince people or let people see the machine, let them know, hey, you need this in your program. I do a little bit when I'm traveling around recruiting players for my tours. I always ask every coach, hey, do you guys have a gun? Are you ready for a new one?
Yeah, yeah. Because it is, you can have one for 3 or 4 years, and depending on the level of use that you have, but it can get worn out. But the newer versions, just everything that they can do is just incredible. So you look at your model that's still works, but it just doesn't do near what that does. I imagine kind of like a newer car. It's just too good.
It's very much like looking for a new car for sure. And, they're built to last. I see machines
Yeah.
all the time that are 20 years old, still working great. But guys are like, I want that new technology.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I want the new stuff that one does.
yeah.
All the bells, the whistles, the sound system, the screens, all those kinds of things. And so, yeah, it is like wanting that new car.
So you've had a pretty incredible, basketball career and with coaching, and as far as like all these different levels that you've done, and then now even with the you're in a unique situation with how you just have to put basically teams together
Yeah.
on the fly, and so there's like high school coaches, college coaches. I don't think that's something that we can really relate to at all. But yeah,
Yeah.
your history is pretty incredible to me.
Yeah, I've coached a lot of different levels. Obviously, coached all my kids when they were little. Coached in high school for a couple of years, then made it to college. Spent 20 years in college, and then for the last 13, I've been coaching these high-level college and professional guys. And I was one of those guys that stayed put in places, and I loved continuity of a program. Nothing wrong with junior colleges, but I just never wanted to be in a junior college because of the turnover in your team. I always was real big on, getting guys for 4 years, 4 years. I really wasn't even a big recruiter of transfers. And then in this ministry and what I've done with Athletes in Action now with Sports Reach is I build a new team twice a year.
That's right.
And I've really grown to love and enjoy the building of a team, the putting together of seeing them come together as a unit, seeing them learn, some new things. And then I love the chess match of coaching without scouting. When I was in college, it was, we scouted the heck out of each other. We'd watch 5, 6 game films and have every kid's tendencies and every play down. Now there is no scouting. Basically, we go to another country, we show up and we play whoever's going to play us that day. We travel the next day, we show up at a gym and we're going to play whoever shows up. And so I've really grown to love the chess match. I pride myself on being an X and O's guy. So, that's fun to me. I really love the mixing and matching and all right, here's what he's doing. I'm going to stop it with this. And here's what I'm going to do. See if he can stop this.
Yeah. I would think that that's really fun too, because when part of scouting I don't like is going into a game feeling like I really know what to expect, because it's scary. Like the moment that you think that you know what's coming and they deviate from that, it can really throw you for a loop. But if you go into a game knowing I just have to react and learn on the fly, I would think that that's kind of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And I'm blessed. I was a coach's son. And so I've been around the game my whole life. And I've always been a student of the game. And so there's not many offenses or defenses that I've not seen and done, but I love the being able to figure out how to stop these things and how to do things that they can't stop. And so, and one of the blessings about doing what I do now is I get a lot of really good guys, high character, high quality guys, usually really smart guys. And it's really fun to coach these guys that you can call timeout, draw something up, and they go out there and do it. and what's been really fun is sometimes we have tour teams where, I generally try to put in 4 or 5 basic offensive sets that have a lot of options. And I'm always the kind of guy that says, I'm not going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what's best for the personnel that I have. And so I have a wide variety of things I can do, but most things I do are a lot of quick hitter options with multiple options.
Yeah.
And so I love that John Wooden philosophy that we're going to be really good at what we do, and let's see if they can stop us.
I like that too. I think that's right, kind of in my wheelhouse. Is we're pretty simple, and we're going to try to be the best at what we do, and then see how they handle it, and then maybe make some adjustments from there.
One of the other things I wanted to tell you that you asked me about my spring, a new thing for me since I've moved to Texas with Sports Reach, we started a sports ministry with basketball in the prison system.
Wow.
And so there's a big maximum security prison just down the road here in Waco, from Waco and Gatesville, called the Alfred D. Hughes Unit. And I've taken teams into the prison before just to play a game before we go on a tour or things like that. But, it's go in, play a game, share our faith, and leave. And so when I came to Texas, I was looking for some way to be a little more involved in the prison system. And so I met with a chaplain friend of mine here in Waco who's been working in the prison at Hughes Unit for about 13 years. And he actually said the warden, because of COVID, came to him and said, can you get some kind of program or activity to give these guys something to do in the prison and maybe playing games or something? And he said, sure. What about basketball? And the prison said, yeah. The warden said, that'd be great. And so he and I got connected, and he said, hey, what could we do in the prison with basketball? And I said, how about if we teach these guys how to play 3-on-3 Olympic style? The new Olympic style 3-on-3 is so fast paced, and it's half court.
It's catching too. Yeah, it's becoming really popular.
Yeah, and you can get a lot of guys involved in it. So we came up with this program where we said, all right, I'm going to spend 6 or 7 sessions teaching the guys basic basketball fundamentals and then how to play this new 3-on-3 fast-paced game. And then we'll have a big tournament, and we'll let these guys participate in the tournament. And the catch is obviously that for them to get to participate in the basketball tournament, they have to come to a session before the practice that's a biblical manhood session. Nice. And we're teaching out of the 33 series on biblical manhood. And so we thought we would have, 150 guys sign up in the prison to be a part of this. And we had signups a couple months ago, and we had over 500 inmates sign up to be a part of this. And so for the last couple of months, we've broke these guys down into groups of about 40 to 50. And me and some volunteers, we go into the prison on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we do 2 groups a day. We do 2 groups in the morning. We do one group in the morning with about 50 guys, and then we do a group in the afternoon about 50 guys. And we do it on Wednesday and Saturday. And then on Saturday, when the session's over, we do a big tournament. And the plan is to take the top 2 teams from each unit, and then at the end have a big championship tournament for the whole prison. And it has been going amazing.
What's it like? What's it like watching those guys compete in there? What's that like?
Dude, I can't tell you how much fun it is. These are guys that are locked up for a long time. And they're from anywhere from 20 years old to we got guys in their 60s.
Wow.
They're wanting to be a part of this, and they're coming to practice every day, and they're out there doing the drills. And, when I went into this, I was like, I have no idea what the level is going to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start teaching just like if I was doing a kids basketball camp. And I'm just going to start teaching very basic, and we're going to build on it every session until we can get them to the point they can play this fast-paced 3-on-3 game. And I have been absolutely blown away by watching these grown men laughing and encouraging each other, patting each other on the back, giving high fives, just having a good time. And every time I have guys come up to me saying, I haven't done this since I was a kid. This is so much fun. And
That's cool, man.
They've actually loved the teaching, and a lot of them are like, I learned to play in the prison. I never learned the basic fundamentals before. This is so good for me. I'm enjoying this. And so the teaching times have been really great. And we've only done one tournament, but the tournament went awesome. I told the guys when I came in, I said, my goal is for everybody to be able to win a game. I don't want anybody to play the whole tournament and not win a single game. And so the first tournament, we only had one team that did not win a game. And it turned out that one of their players got transferred off the unit to somewhere else, and he was one of their good players. And so I felt so bad for them, but every other team that was in the tournament got a win. And
that's so cool.
Just to see these guys' excitement and their passion. And it's been so fun to look these guys in the eye and, say, hey, good job. You're doing a good job. I see you improving. And, that's something.
I doubt they hear that
Yeah,
ever.
that's something these guys just don't hear in the
Yeah.
prison system. They're there for a reason. They know they're there for a reason. They know they've made mistakes, but they're paying their dues. They're doing their time, and they're people too. They just made mistakes, and they want to be able to have some kind of fun a little bit, or a little bit of recreation, and they want to be looked in the eye and treated like a man.
Yeah.
And
How are
that's been fun.
How are the lessons going? Like the manhood lessons that you're doing?
They've actually been really good too. It's a video series that we show, and so it's about a 30-minute video we show, and then we have a discussion time where we just talk to the guys about, hey, what do you think about what was said today? And it's been amazing to hear these guys actually talk. It's a lot of just manhood stuff with biblical basis, and so. We've got guys in there from pretty much every faith background you can imagine that are coming because they want to play basketball, and they have to sit through this series to be a part of it. But it's been amazing to watch them speak up and say, I could make that change in my life, and I can see how that would help me be a better man, be a better father, a better husband. And when I get out, I want to do that. I don't want to make the same mistakes I've made that put me in here. And so that's been really encouraging that we've seen guys doing that. And, when we do the tournament day, that's the day we really present the gospel, and really we're a lot more on that day of saying, hey, it's great that you want to make these changes in your life, but if you really want to make a change, you need to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, and He's the one that can change you from the inside out.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool to see guys, come to us and say, I've known about this, I've heard this, but I've never looked at it this way, and man, it's cool, and I want to make Jesus my Savior. And so it's been really cool. And this ministry I thought was going to take me, 6 or 8 weeks maybe. It looks like I'm going to be doing this to get all 500 guys in over the next 3 or 4 months.
How incredible is that? But again, thank you. Congratulations on what an amazing thing you've done there, and using basketball. I mean, I think using sports or basketball, but for His glory. And I mean, no idea the impact that you're having on these guys. I mean, you see some of it, but there's even more, like seeds that are being planted that while they have the time that they have, I mean, those, God's word is going to be working on them. And so, man, well, that's so cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that my spring is really busy with right now.
Yeah. That's unique too. Not many guys can say that they've got a prison ministry of 3-on-3 basketball going right now. Not many guys could say that.
Yeah, and our goal, the way I'm trying to build this program, I'm trying to build it in such a way that we could give it away. If let's say your church calls and says, hey, we've got a prison close to us, we're looking for something we can do in there. We heard you do something with basketball. I want to be able to send a packet that says, here's what we've done.
Yeah.
You can do the very same thing.
Yeah.
And we'd love to be able to give it away. And we'd love to see this, kind of take off in prisons all across the country, because we are seeing these guys love basketball. And it's a great way to get them to come in and give you the opportunity to talk about Jesus.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. One of my favorite things to ask guys and coaches, especially that with the experience that you've had, or what are some opportunities for learning and growth that you've recently found?
Man, it's funny that when you asked me that question, I immediately went to one thing, and it's at my church. I live in Waco, Texas, and we go to Highland Baptist Church here in Waco.
Yeah.
And our pastor has started a program recently, and it's called Learning from Leaders. And I don't know if you can see this or not. This is what it looks like. We
raise it up a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. We have Learning from Leaders. And on certain Tuesdays of the month, they invite in different leaders from our community. And they have a panel where they just sit these 4 people up in front. And our pastor just asks them questions like, hey, what's the best thing that you have learned in your business? What's the biggest mistakes you've made in your field of work or your business and things like that? What makes a good leader where you are? And he just asked these guys just some really great questions. And it's just so cool to hear people with experience in different fields talk about the things they've done well, the things that they've not done well,
Yeah.
and people who have influenced them in their life. And what was it that they made a big influence in them about that person? And so, because my wife and I are leading some things in our church, we've been invited to be a part of this Learning from Leaders series. And man, I just can't get over how much I've been getting out of this, and just the connections we've had. We had a mayor, we've had a senator, we've had law enforcement officers, we've had doctors, we've had people that run nonprofits in our community. Every time it's a different panel of people, and it's been one of the best things I've ever been a part of.
I think that's a really cool idea. And I've heard some coaches say something similar, that with their teams, they'll bring in people from their community to talk to the players. And I think I'm so guilty of it always being about basketball. And I mean, we can't waste a second,
Well, our time is so
training, and it's so, but how much could I help them be a well-rounded person? And what Jordan Peterson said, you have to approach everybody as if they have something that they can teach you, and that you have that opportunity at that church. I think as coaches, we can give our players that opportunity.
Yeah, our church was designed. Our pastor designed it for staff at the church, and then they expanded it to leaders. So like people that teach small groups, Sunday school groups, all those kinds of things. So they've expanded it to all the leaders that they can, because it's been so valuable. And you're exactly right. I think this would be an amazing kind of thing to do with your teams, whether you're high school teams or college teams. And you can bring everybody, you can bring people in from banking to insurance to, whatever. And these are all things these kids really need to learn that they don't necessarily get in the classroom. And,
yeah,
sorry, we can't cover everything in the basketball court. We try, but, it's kind of old now, but my favorite book is still Lead for God's Sake. That's one of the greatest books I think I've ever read. Of course, I'm from Kentucky. And so the story being written about a small high school in Indiana or Kentucky really speaks to me. And it just is a really neat book because it talks at a level that I can understand as a basketball guy. And, so I share that book with a lot of people, whether they're in business or whether they're in sports. That's my favorite book to give out, is Lead for God's Sake. I actually know the guy that wrote it, Todd Gongwer. When I was working with Athletes in Action, we invited him to come and be a part of the coaches forum at the Final Four for the NCAA coaches convention. And so a friend of mine and I, we went to his house and we sat down with him and said, would you be willing to come and just sit on this panel and talk about how this book came about? Because Todd was a small college basketball coach, and he'd never written anything, never had any interest in writing anything. And he said, God just laid this story on his heart in his dreams, and he couldn't get away from it. And he started getting up at night during the night and just typing it out. And he says, I never wrote anything before in my life. I never even thought about writing anything. This story just came to me, and it's turned out to be just an unbelievable book and an unbelievable leadership lesson for people.
And I've heard of that. I've heard of that book before. I've never read it though. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
You got to read it.
Add it to the list. Yeah.
It's a quick read too. That's what I like about it. You can read it pretty quick, because I know us basketball coaches, our time is valuable. And so I like that it's a pretty quick read, but it's nice. One of those books that's so interesting because of the basketball story in it that you don't want to put it down.
Yeah. What coaches or leaders out there do you follow closely? Do you feel like you learn a lot from?
Well, now that I live in Waco, I'm a big Scott Drew fan, man.
Let's go.
I'm sick 'em Bears, baby.
That's
sick 'em
right.
Bears.
That's right.
I've actually known Scott since his days coaching at Valpo with his dad. And so because I was living in that area, I've known him since then. And he's a great friend and a great mentor to me. Was super blessed when he gave my son Kyle a chance to come and be a graduate assistant here 5 years ago. And that was when I really got to spend quality time with Scott. Before, I always knew him and respected him. But when my son got to be a part of the program, he opened the doors to me too and said, hey, you're welcome to come in here anytime, and blessed me with the opportunity to come in and sit in some coaches meetings, to be able to just walk in and out of the offices and sit down and pick guys' brains and talk. And he's a hyperactive, high energy dude, and that's who he is.
Yeah,
You know that. You know that.
It's really what you see in interviews, like when he for March Madness this past year, when he was on that panel or the commentators, that's really who he is. Like
That's
it wasn't
exactly.
a show, it wasn't anything. I like for people to know that.
It's exactly who he is every day, and he just loves his kids, and he loves Jesus, and he wants everybody to know both those things. He wants his players and everybody around him to know that he loves his kids and he loves Jesus. And he's just been a great mentor to me. I love how he puts guys in power in his program. He's not one of those micromanagers so much that, everything is about him and he does everything. And so I love watching how he gives other guys the power to do things, and then he encourages them to do it. And that's been really good. And then I'm a huge Tubby Smith guy. Being a Kentucky boy, I grew up in Kentucky, and I got to know Coach Smith, Tubby Smith, when he was an assistant coach at Kentucky with Rick Pitino. And I was a young coach, and I would go over and work their basketball camps. Got to know him then. Then when he became the head coach at Kentucky, I had a chance to go back and actually help him run the camps for him, and worked all the summers he was there for him, and really got to know him, spent a lot of time with him. He's been a great friend to me. Then when he went to Texas Tech, I didn't go to Minnesota with him because it's too cold. I said, hey, I'm not coming up there. But when he moved to Texas Tech, I went to Texas Tech with him, worked with him, and then Memphis, and then High Point's been a great opportunity to just get to see him into his fading years, and really honored to be able to know him and be a part of his life and to coach some of his players. I've had players from both Coach Drew and from Coach Smith on my tours over the years, and those are two of my favorite guys. I'm also a big Rick Byrd guy. You may not know that name, but Rick Byrd coached at Belmont.
Okay.
In Nashville, Tennessee, and he was there for really many years and did a great job with the Belmont program. He was known for getting guys that were, just not quite good enough to play at the high D1s, but turning them into phenomenal teams. And he was an offensive guru, and I love offense. So I love picking his brain and sitting with him. And he sent players with me over the years, but he was always great about come in and sit down and let's talk offense. And we would just sit and just talk, and he was great. And so those are three of my top guys.
Coach Smith, I never had any interaction with him. What made him, a unique leader in your opinion?
Coach Smith was a very genuine guy as well. When you talk to him, he would stop whatever he was doing, and he would sit down and look at you and talk to you. From the very beginning. And as an assistant coach, that was probably what he was supposed to do. But when he became the head coach at University of Kentucky, that's a fishbowl, man. You were at the top of the top. You were being scrutinized on everything you do. But if I wanted to talk to him, I could go over there and at the front desk, I'd say, hey, I'm Kelly Combs. I'm here to see Coach Smith. And if he heard my voice or whatever, he'd say, yeah, send him back. And he would stop whatever he was doing. And just what do you want to talk about, Kelly? And we would just sit and talk, and he always gave that time. And when we were at camps in the summertime, parents and people would come through, and he would stop and talk to people. He would, if they wanted an autograph or a picture, he would stop and say, "Where are you from? What do you do?" And he actually talked to people and was genuine. I love that genuineness about him. And I love the part that he loved his players, and that he wanted to get to know his players at a deeper level than just what they could do on the court. And he would get involved in their lives. He was always asking guys questions about, how are you doing at home? What's going on with your parents? What's going on with that? And that was really neat to see him be more invested in his players' lives than he was just what was happening in the court.
I think that's a great point that you had. I always try to think when I hear about leaders and great coaches and some of their characteristics, how can that apply to me? And one thing about him him stopping and talking to people felt like he really was approachable and listening. And it just made me think, like, would my players say that about me? Or would they feel like they don't have a very meaningful, or they rarely have meaningful conversations? Because at any level you can get busy, and you can just start to go from task to task to task and not slow down. So yeah, guys at that level that still had the presence of mind or the ability to stop and one-on-one
Yeah,
zone, be
right
really
here.
there, be present. Like,
It was his eyes.
yeah,
He spoke to you with his eyes. He looked you in the eye. He listened to what you had to say, and then he would talk about that. He wasn't going to the next thing immediately, or he wasn't trying to get away from you. I mean, there was times when he had to be rushed off, but there were times when I was with him and we were trying to get through someplace or go somewhere specific. And if people caught his attention, he would stop and look him in the eyes and talk to him. And I'm like, Coach, we got to get to this thing. Let's go. We got to go. And he would just a second. And he wanted, if you caught his attention, he was going to look you in the eye and make you feel like you were the most important thing at that moment.
coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. What's your BSA score? The Ballogy Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Ballogy mobile app. Elevate your game. So now with Sports Reach, what's one thing that makes that program different for you?
Yeah, man, I love what I do now, but it is totally different than what I used to do and what I ever thought I would do. I grew up in a coach's home, and all I ever wanted to do was play basketball or coach basketball. And I wanted to coach, high school when I was growing up. Then I got a chance to coach in college, got a taste of being able to recruit and pick my players. And man, I love that. And so stayed in the college game for a long time. But what sets us apart right now is that, we are a program, we're a sports ministry, and our whole goal is to use basketball as a tool. Now, we're still going to try to help guys grow in their game and improve at their game, but we see basketball as a tool, as a way of being able to gain exposure, to meet new people, and to be able to share what we love about basketball, but more importantly, to share what we know and love about Jesus Christ. And basketball is one of the most universal games in the world. I've been all over this world, and I can't think of any place that people thought or said, I don't care about basketball. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh, basketball. I love basketball. And they want to learn and they want to know what you have to say about basketball. And that just gives you a natural platform to be able to say, I love basketball, but can I tell you about something that's more important in my life?
Yeah, that's it. You nailed it right there. Because I think I talk to a bunch of coaches now, and you can hear the why, pretty quick. And I will say this: I think the majority of coaches are trying to be transformational, and it's not all about wins and losses or X's and O's, But that is the challenge. The challenge is to, even though we're all competitive, to keep the main thing. And you really have found a way to coach the game that you love, but more importantly, share the person that you love the most. And I think that's pretty unique.
Yeah, I love that our game was invented by James Naismith as a way to not just keep these missionary guys busy during the wintertime, but he quickly figured out, hey, this is a game that you can take all over the world and use it to be able to share about our faith in God and in Jesus. And so I love that about our game. I think it makes our game special and is really unique.
Yeah.
The other thing about our game is that I told you a minute ago, I think, is that I get to get really great kids. It's so fun. In college coaching, I love that I got to pick the players that I want. With Sports Reach, I don't necessarily pick players based on talent. I pick players that are interested in using basketball to learn more about their own faith, to learn how to grow in their faith, but also to learn how to share their faith. And so it's a really cool thing. And that's kind of what sets us apart, is that, we're helping you grow in basketball, but we want you to grow in your own faith. And
yeah,
it's been cool to watch.
Circle is small. That circle's small. Like, because you think of, mentioned earlier in our talk about how difficult it is right now with the portal and how uncertain so many players are. Even if it was normal, like, you're not just, like you mentioned, it's not just about putting together an all-star team. Yes, they have to hoop. They have to be competent in that area. but they also have to have a certain level of character, because you can't go on a tour and say that you're there, for a certain reason, but then be speaking and talking and living and doing things differently while you're there. But then, yeah, the ability to actually share their faith, like that's a small circle.
It is. And, when I'm recruiting, I don't tell coaches that, hey, I need your strongest Christian kids. I use our program as an outreach as well to kids. And so what we tell coaches is we want your best kids high character wise. We want kids that would be open to and learning about the faith side of things. Now, 60 to 70% of my team, I do want strong Christian kids that are kids we can put out front and talk. But I like to have 20 to 30%, maybe even 40% of my team guys that are saying, I know about this and I'm interested in learning more.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
That's the way I've done that. That's what I've always done when I was with Athletes in Action. That's what I do at Sports Reach is I try to have 20, 30% of my team as being guys that are open, that are seekers, or they may not even know they're a seeker, but they're a really good kid who would say, I'm open to learning about that. And it's been really cool and fun to watch those kids come on my trips and go home as different people.
A big debate I feel like out there is it system or style of play, or is it your players? And I've sometimes on myself, I feel like I've gone too far to the style side, where I don't care what players I have, they can fit the style. And then maybe I struggled in some ways, but then you see the coaches that I can do anything, or I'll do any type of play, whatever's best for the players. And in your arena, it's even more unique because you do have these highly talented players, but they're strangers and they're coming together for such a short time with very little practice. So what's your favorite style to teach?
Yeah, my favorite style to teach obviously is an up-tempo motion offense, kind of I don't do the read and react, but I try to teach these guys how to basically read and react. It's not the read and react offense like coach teaches, but I'm trying to put the guys in a position to make them successful, to use the gifts and talents that they have. And it's been pretty fun because when I was coaching college ball, I went down that road a little bit of, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I believe in this system. And the fun part about that was that I could recruit kids to fit that system.
Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah.
But I also learned that as we got kids in our program and we developed kids, sometimes their giftings or talents came out in a different way. And it was like, wait a minute, I need to do something that highlights what this kid can do. And so I began to do that a little bit more when I was coaching college. And again, that's one of the things I love about coaching what I do now, is because I get a very different group of guys. I don't always get the same team at all. I mean, sometimes I get a lot of shooters, sometimes I get some big guys, sometimes I get guard heavy oriented. Whatever it is on the team, I try to put in offensive things that really let the guys shine and really give us the best chance to win, because I could have an idea what I want to do, but if the guys can't score in those options, I better find the ways that they can score. And so I love finding, all right, what's going to give us the best way to score? What's going to give us the best advantage that the other team can't stop?
I think you said something that really jumped out at me and made me think, how many of us have a style of play that makes sense for the kids that we have, but because we might be so rigid to it or stuck in it, that as players do develop, we're not of changing it and making it work even a little bit better. Like, how many players are held back because of the style of play or the system that we're sold out to? That's an interesting thought.
You would not believe how many guys I've had on tours over the years who come on tour with me, and during our individual skill sessions and things, I recognize, dude, you're good at this. And all of a sudden I'm putting in plays or quick hitters to get this guy in that position. And these guys come over and say, Coach, I never get to do this at my college team. This is so awesome.
Wow.
And then they go back to school with a different swagger, a different confidence. And I love to get that phone call from a college coach that says, I don't know what you did, but you turned a light on in this kid, and he's a different guy. And I'm like, well, I hate to tell you this, but I found out what he was good at, and I put him in situations where he could do that.
It just makes sense, man.
It's so I've, not without telling guys what to do, but I've tried to encourage college coaches when I send guys back. I always call coach and say, hey, look, this is what your guy did for me. Man, he was really good at this. And I try to really brag on what the kid did really well and say, coach, man, you got to put this guy in this situation because, man, he really excelled at this. And it's fun when I get a college coach who's humble enough to say, maybe I should do that. And then I get a phone call later in the season that says, dude, we started doing that. And this kid's now putting points on the board.
What are ways do you think that, because high school coaches, we get who we get for the most part, we get who we get, and we do have a style that we like, but what are some ways that we can continue maybe throughout the year, allow for players to show what they can do, change roles? Any specifics or advice there?
Man, that's hard. My son got the head coaching job at Live Oak Classical School here in Waco this last year, and he came to me and says, "Dad, would you be one of my assistant coaches?" And I told him no like 3 or 4 times because I've been a head coach for 20 years, and I wasn't sure I could sit on the bench and keep my mouth shut,
right?
Not telling things, but I know exactly what you're talking about here because he's in a small Christian private school and he has what he has. And he has an idea, obviously, of what he wants to run, spending 3 years at Baylor. And, it's been fun to be able to say, hey, I see so-and-so doing this when we do individual work. Can we do this little tweak or whatever? And thankfully, Kyle has been pretty open to that. He's been really good about saying, well, show me how that would work. And so I've been able to do that. So I think a way for that would be to spend a lot of time doing individual work.
Yes.
And give your assistant coaches the freedom to come to you and say, hey, I see this kid really doing this well. Can we look at maybe finding a wrinkle where he could do that? And I was always really big on that, making sure my assistant coaches were eyes for me. Because as a head coach, I'm trying to watch so many things. I miss things. And so I think it's really important that your assistant coaches are confident enough and believe that, hey, I can come to you and say, coach, I see this. Can we try it? And, and be willing to listen and say, okay, how would that work? Let's look at it. And I think the game of basketball is always evolving and changing. The best coaches are guys that can evolve and change, in my opinion. The guys that are so rigid, they've had their time of success, and there was times for that. But today's athletes are so different in their areas of improvement, their areas of growth, their ideology of where they want to be able to go and do. They're not just pinholed anymore.
Yeah.
You used to, coaches could pinhole a guy and say, oh, this is what you're going to do. And that kid just did that. But nowadays, kids want to be more well-rounded. And if coaches would realize that a well-rounded kid that can do more things can do a lot more things for you as well. And so I think you got to really be open to evolving and changing. I describe my offense as a living, breathing thing. And that, it's not a dead, stagnant something. It's living and breathing and changing all the time. And when I see something that works, man, I'm going to use it.
Yeah. The two big takeaways there that I got. One is how important individual skill work is for the development of your program, but for you as a coach to be able to see areas where they're improving. Because especially these younger ages, you're talking about 15, 16, 17-year-olds, in their physical development, they could be so different, but the moment that something clicks in their body and the skill that they had, it might develop into this new arena that they could play in and they could do.
Very much.
If your skill work halts when your season begins or diminishes, like at Faith, we're still 50% skill work during this season because I've never thought about it as I want to see who could maybe do some new things. I didn't think about it like that, but I think that's a way that we can, as the season progresses, continue to not like we do in a tryout, When we assess, that assessment can't stop once the season begins and you become set in who should do what and where and what time. So that was a good nugget. And then I love the idea of assistant coaches being eyes for me. Like I don't think I've done a great job of empowering my assistants in that way. They randomly will come to me with something, but what if I actually gave them the directive of, guys, listen, what I see, what you see, I want you to let me know. And so that it's almost as if I have how many sets of, 6 pairs of eyes, 6 eyes out there. I love that idea.
Yeah, that's huge. I always tell my guys right away, I don't want a yes man. I don't want you to be the guy that always says, yes, coach, yes, coach. I want you to be the guy that says, coach, did you see this? Coach, did you see that? Can we, because sometimes I don't, and I think that's really important. And I think your assistant coaches will be more involved and be more excited about things that they see if you actually listen to them. Now I tell them, I'm still the head coach, and whether we do it or not, it's still my decision, but I want to know what you see. And I like to try to use the things that they tell me, even if it's minor things here or there, because it really empowers them, excites them. And there's no better way to prepare them to become head coaches. And that's always my goal for an assistant coach, is to prepare that guy to be a head coach someday. I mean, we all love to have guys with us for a really long time, but the truth is, if somebody had done that to us, we would have never became head coaches.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. I think a lot of us coaches would think, or we acknowledge, that individual skill work is important. But then with your situation where you've just put this team together, you're going to play in a country for a certain amount of days and games, you have a certain amount of practices. How does skill work in to your practices, and how do you view it?
Yeah, I think it's really important because, we are taking these kids on a trip, but we're taking them away from their time with their college program for a couple of weeks. And so I think it's really important that they don't lose anything during that 2 weeks that we have them. And so we tell their coaches, hey, we're gonna work on individual skill stuff while we have these guys. And so, for instance, our trip to Jamaica this year, we're gonna bring our team together on May the 14th, and we'll have what we call a training camp. And the training camp will start on Sunday the 15th, and we'll go the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. And so during those times, we don't have school or anything, so we get to practice twice a day.
Nice.
So in the morning, we have a skill session work, and we break them up into guards and bigs, or wings and forwards, whatever we have. My son likes to call them finishers and creators. He doesn't like to call them guards and bigs. He said that's too defining. And so I'm trying to get that terminology in, finishers and creators.
I like that.
But so we break them up into groups that are skill specific into their areas, and then we just really, really focus on the things that their position group needs to work on, and we try to explore some new things. Kind of like I said before, we want them to work on the things that they do, but we also try to give them a couple things that they may not normally do, and say, hey, let's work on this and develop that. And so we spend over an hour in the mornings on skill development, and then we do in that morning session, then we do walkthroughs with what we're going to teach in the afternoon, so that when we come back to the afternoon practice, they have an idea what we're going to do. We don't have to spend so much time teaching, and it's kind of a good time because we've put them through a hard workout. They want a little bit of a break, but we still want them to think, and so we teach them, all right, here's what we're going to do offensively this afternoon. Then we come back in the afternoon session, and it's all offense and defense, because we only get, like you said, 3 or 4 days to try to look like a team. And I want these guys to look and play like a team. And I want them to really, when we play other teams, I want people to say, you've only practiced how many times? And I love to say, well, we had 3 days.
Yeah.
And we're going to these other countries and we're beating these teams that are teams. They're together all year round. And I love to be able to say, yeah, we did this with 3 days practice.
Yeah. Coach Bliss at Baylor I don't know if he chose me because no one else was available, but after my sophomore year, he chose me to go to play on a team with Tate's Lock
Oh yeah,
as the coach. Yeah, that was
out of
a blast.
Cincinnati, he's a good one, man.
Yeah, and I was blown away by one how quickly we could come together as a team, all strangers. But one, if you have a good coach, if you have somebody that has a good plan and a system that we can plug into, but it, like you kind of mentioned a few times, the beauty of the game is there's a guy from Montana, there's a guy all over the place, and we come together on this team. And then I was blown away by how big, physical, strong these men were that we were playing. Like we went over to London and played, and a guy actually hit me as I was running and knocked my shoulder back, which had never happened before. But it was such a great experience, but those things kind of are my takeaways from it.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience to be able to put together a team of guys. And I think one of the things that really makes it special for us is that we're trying to play for a greater purpose. Yeah, we want to win games, but we're playing for a higher and greater purpose. And that seems to really give the guys a bond and something to really rally around and a reason to buy into what we're doing and not be selfish. That's one of the first things that we do, the very first practice. The very first thing we do is we put them out there in scrimmage so I can see what everybody does and what they're good at. And I say, look, I don't care what you can do really well. I want to know what makes us a good team. And we're not about being selfish here. We're going to be very unselfish. We're going to share the ball, and we're going to play in such a way that when we play other teams, we want those other teams to say, "Man, what makes you guys so different? How do you guys come together like that? And why do you cheer for each other? And why do you pull for each other like that?" Because that's very uncommon. Most places we go around the world, it's a dog eat dog world, and this is kind of a unique experience for guys to be able to go on something where it's not about me. It's about something bigger and greater than me.
And that's it. I think you just nailed what majority of coaches, once their season starts, are trying to achieve. Is they want to have the best team. They want to have success on the floor. But how do you get that? Is you get a group of individuals that all have different goals to play for and buy into something greater than themselves. With Sports Reach, with your teams, you just happen to have like the greatest purpose for why you're there. But I just think that's what all of us need to be striving for as coaches is we got to get our guys believing in something far greater than just winning and losing just basketball.
Yeah, I think that's one of the toughest things for a high school coach, a college coach, is to find something that gives these kids a greater purpose than just winning. Because you've won, I've won. I was fortunate enough to win a national championship as a player, but when that's over, it's over. I remember winning the national championship and celebrating and just super excited. But I remember being back in my motel room that night thinking, it's over.
I think that is. I don't think we hear those stories enough of the NBA player that finally gets to the top, and then that realization of that's it. What's next? But then that's why you see these guys. One of my favorite articles is called "Do You Still Want to Be Like Mike?" And it's about how Jordan talks about how empty he is and how he can't turn this competitive drive off that he has. And he's like, it's just, I need something else to do. I can't, it's never enough. And I love stories like that because it helps me to keep the main thing with what we're doing.
Yeah, we talk a lot about victory beyond competition. Is how do you win in life without a scoreboard? And what is the most important things in your life? And it can't be a scoreboard. It has to be something else that continues on, goes on. And it's got to be a living thing as well. It's got to be keep moving and changing. You can't have one set thing that if I achieve this, that's it. Because once you achieve that, that is it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we try to help these guys realize a lot of things, and that we want them to continue to grow and become just really great people who, who follow after God, because we really believe that, if you're doing the right things because you love the Lord, then you're going to be better at pretty much everything else you do.
Coach, I'm going to get to know you even better after the speed round. The speed
Awesome.
round. And there's so many, because of the work that you've done in college basketball with Athletes in Action and also with the shooting gun now, I can't imagine just all of the coaches that you've interacted with that but if they listen to this, then they're going to really know who you are. You ready?
Okay.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Butter pecan.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
I'm for the shot clock.
Nice. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Invisibility or super strength?
Oh wow. Super strength. I was hoping you were going to ask me if I could fly. That's the one I really
That's
want.
the one. Okay.
That's the one that I want. I don't care about invisibility. I don't care about super. I want to be able to fly.
I'm pigeonholing. I'm doing exactly what we talked about not doing. I'm just giving you two options. What about a third? No. Here's the two.
I want to fly. That is the ultimate for me. I want to fly.
If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
I like where I'm at.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. Yeah,
I'm a history guy. I love history, but I'm not sure there's a period of time that I really wanted to be in, because I do like the comforts that I have now, but I also like the abilities that I have now to be able to travel the world and go and do the things that I'm able to do.
You mean you don't want to go back to horse and buggy where it takes?
No, I mean, there's some cool things about it, but the gyms, I don't know about the gyms at that time.
That's right. Think about your life is dramatically different if you go back before Naismith and when travel's super slow. That's different.
I can't imagine my life before that.
Yeah. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
0.
Man. Coach, can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
This is day one of no caffeine, and I'm feeling it.
I didn't say I don't drink caffeine.
Oh, okay.
I love a Diet Dr. Pepper.
But never a coffee guy.
I've never drank coffee. I've never really liked coffee. My wife is a little older than me, and so I love to say that I'm not old enough to drink coffee yet.
That's funny. Last one, probably the most important: Godfather or Star Wars? You could say neither.
Godfather or Star Wars? I'm actually a big Star Wars fan.
Hey, own it, Coach. Own it.
My kids, 3 of my kids don't understand it. I have one kid that absolutely loves Star Wars, so he and I really connect on a lot.
That's what I grew up with. I mean, my dad and I were just that's what we watched, and I think coaches a lot of times feel like they should say Godfather, like it's a tougher thing, but I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Coach, this was awesome, because again, you and I have crossed paths so many times, whether it's at clinics or talking about the shooting gun, or even talking about possible trips and things like that. But just to get to talk hoops with you, to learn a little bit more about your view of basketball, it's just been a pleasure, man.
Man, I have enjoyed this so much. You're actually my first podcast. I've been wanting to do something like this for quite some time. You're the first one I've been on, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been so much fun. And,
awesome.
Would love to talk anytime that you want to talk.
I love that. Well, tell me a little bit more about, like, let's just say high school coaches or any college coaches that would listen. They're interested in doing something like you're doing, or getting involved with Sports Reach. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, Sports Reach. We are a global sports ministry. You can look us up at sportsreach.org. We have a website with all kinds of stuff on it. And we do have opportunities for high school guys as well. When I was with Athletes and Action, we primarily focused on college athletes. I primarily focus on college stuff here at Sports Reach, but we do high school as well. We have opportunities for schools to actually take their whole team on a trip and do mission work, or you can, put together teams of guys from different teams, and we will help you to be able to go and do that. One of the things that really make us special is we provide a discipler or a life coach when we take teams places. And so we have someone that's dedicated to doing the teaching stuff, where we talk a lot about what does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to be an athlete and a Christian? How do you combine those two things? How do you live that out? How do you grow in your faith? How do you learn to share your faith with somebody else? How are you able to get into conversations that would lead you or lead the other person to ask you about your faith? And so those are really cool things about Sports Reach. And there are opportunities. We also have some coaching opportunities for coaches to go and help us do clinics and camps. We have opportunities in Central America, the Caribbean, Africa, Asian countries, whatever. So, if you're interested, if anyone out there is interested in being involved in sports ministry in one capacity or the other, and, we also love people who just want to go and support.
Yeah.
We have guys go on our trips all the time that just say, hey, I just want to come be a supporter. I want to come be a helper. And those guys sometimes are able to get into some really great conversations because they're not busy with basketball.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're playing a basketball game and there are people in the stands that are wanting to know, what is this team all about? What makes them different? What makes them do the things that they do? And it gives a guy in the stands to be able to say, well, we do what we do because of our belief in God and our belief in Jesus. And, he's the one that leads and guides us, and they are able to get in some conversations. So, we're always looking for anybody that's interested. Managers, I would love to have a manager go on any of my trips because as a head coach, how valuable managers
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
So anybody that would be willing to go and do that, anybody that's just willing to go and serve and be around athletes, that's what we're looking for. So it's sportsreach.org, and my email is just Kelly, Kelly, at sportsreach.org, and it's just spelled out sportsreach.org. So
say that one more time, the email.
Kelly at sportsreach.org.
Awesome.
And I would love to hear from anybody out there. And then, of course, we are a supported ministry. So, I'm a full-time guy doing this here. And so my living is completely dependent on people donating to the ministry so that I can continue to do this work. So if there's anybody out there that says, hey, I may not be interested in going on a trip, but I could help by donating funds to help with that. We would love to hear from those people. And you could support me as a full-time minister, or you could even give to help players go on tours, because sometimes players have a hard time raising the funds to go on the tour. So, if somebody out there would like to say, hey, I'd like to help a kid go, I can give, get in touch with me.
Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you so much for your time, man. This was great.
Thank you, Matt. I'm so glad. And, man, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you as a coach. I knew you as a Baylor guy, but to get to watch your program a little bit where you're at is amazing and awesome. And I have to tell you, I tell my son all the time, if you could have a program like Matt, you got it made.
Coach, that's too kind, but I appreciate that. And yeah, if he ever wants to talk hoops, just let me know. I love that. So thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.